Hi, I'm Melinda Van Fleet, and welcome to the Confident Conversations podcast. I'm a confidence and peak performance coach, best-selling author, and speaker who helps business women believe in themselves, build confidence, and take action. This podcast shares authentic and transparent, thought-provoking stories, tips, and tools from my experiences, as well as incredible guests, so you can continue to build your confidence and live your best life. Thank you for joining me. Let's get started on this confidence journey. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's Confident Conversations podcast. I am so grateful that you are joining me this week. Relationships. Oh my goodness. Where would we be without relationships? And as a human, we all know that relationships are multifaceted, have lots of ups and downs, and each situation is different. That's what I want you to understand. Each situation is different. I feel that in the past couple weeks, I have had to reset some boundaries, come to terms with how some relationships are, and make some decisions. Are you with me? Are you feeling this way too? I felt this might be a really good topic this week because I feel like I'm seeing that out there. I feel like I'm seeing that on social media. I feel like I'm hearing this in conversations. I know that Ryan and I are having conversations about certain people, businesses, and it can really suck your energy. And if you've been following me, you know that energy is so important. I write about it, I speak about it on both podcasts, and I really, really believe in working on your energy and always trying to stay on a positive energy railroad track. However, you can't change other people. So hence, here is the tricky part. What the fuck do you do? I started scrolling through my podcast titles to refresh my memory because this podcast has been out now for a year and a half. And if you don't know, it was originally called Crush It in Sales. And then I renamed it in January to Confident Conversations as I am no longer a sales rep. And I had to scroll through because I'm like, when is the last time I talked about my bucket tool? I've written about my bucket tool since then. It's definitely in the chapter in Brilliant Breakthroughs for the Small Business Owner. I've definitely blogged about it. I've talked about it on the Daily Sales podcast, which is Scott Ingram's podcast. I was like, when's the last time I talked about it on this podcast? And as far as titles go, it goes all the way back to October 2019. Ah, so crazy. And the bucket tool is something I use every day, multiple times a day. I think about it. I speak with it. It is just a really great tool. So I'm going to share the tool with you and also share an example of something I went through last week. And hopefully the example combined with the tool makes this just really relatable for you. And if you remember to use it, because that's the thing, everyone has to remember and then take action and do it, you'll be surprised at how it'll just alleviate a lot of pressure in your life and anxiety and triggers and mind loops and give you some direction as to what action you wish to take. And that's the thing. Again, what you wish to take. Not what someone else tells you to take or makes you feel like you need to take. It's for you to make the decision and you to decide and you to take. Very important to understand this. And that's actually where some of my journey comes in. And the story I'm going to share with you in regards to the other person, who I won't give the name, but I don't think she listens to this podcast anyways. The other person that I had the conversation with is a great person. There's absolutely nothing against her. It was just an enlightening experience, and one where I felt very happy that I stood my ground in my confidence and knowing what was going on in order to have a great conversation back with her. So anywho, so the bucket tool is this. It's very simple. Bucket one is something when you look at the situation, you're going to make a decision to really have no change. You're just going to either just get over it, move on, ignore it. At the end of the day, it's not a big deal, kind of like let go of it, right? Let that shit go. That is bucket number one. Bucket number two is where you have to have some type of discussion. You have to have some type of action, and it will hopefully, after you've thought about it, the intention is for sure to bring some type of understanding where you just agree to disagree, like something I had with my dad about a month ago, or you come to an understanding and you have an agreement. Either which way, that's just life. And as long as you're okay with it and the other person's okay with it, at least there's some type of agreement, there's a conversation. And yes, sometimes it gets heated. Yes, sometimes there's tears shed. We are all people. Do not feel bad about that. But the important thing is you had some type of conversation and you have some type of resolution. And number three is, let's say bucket number one or two doesn't work. You might have to walk away. Like cut ties, move on, walk away, block and bless, whatever you need to do, because the other person isn't going to change and you just need them far away from you, far away from your energy. And there are people out there, there are energy vampires, people. There are energy vampires. There are people that are narcissistic and they're not going to change. Now, I will say this one little caveat that my husband Ryan and I were talking about the other day. And that is, I do believe there are narcissistic, arrogant people that are truly just narcissistic and arrogant, and they don't know it. No one wakes up in the morning and goes, "Hey, I'm a narcissist." Like, that's just not how it is. And they just are, and they're probably never going to change. And how do you have a conversation with somebody and say, "Oh, hey, I think you're a narcissist"? Like, that is just really, really a really sticky wicket. But then there are people that may have narcissistic or arrogant tendencies, but deep down, they're probably just insecure. And there's a couple people in my life right now that I think are in that bucket. So this is kind of like a subsidiary bucket. So make sure you think through that as you may be struggling with someone. Is this person really like a quote unquote bad person? Or does this person really just have some deep down insecurity issues, maybe limiting beliefs, things that happened to them in childhood that you might be surprised if they ever told you the story, and it might help you see yourself as them, and you can kind of move through those feelings and those triggers a little more easily, I should say. So just think about that too as you're kind of doing all this. And the biggest thing before you venture into the buckets is to sit with whatever you're dealing with, whatever you're struggling with, whomever you're struggling with, and give it all some thought. Like, sit with it. Sit with it for a couple days. Sit with it for however long you need. You do not need to respond to people right away. You do not need to pick up the phone right away. Just let things simmer. Give it some time and see how you feel then. As like the smoke clears, right? Or there's a saying about the smoke clearing. As the smoke clears, then you might have like a new point of view. Some other guidance might have come to you. You might have read something that became an aha moment. You might have listened to this podcast. You'd be like, "Oh my gosh, perfect timing for this podcast because I've been struggling with my neighbor." So whatever it is, because we all have people struggles, relationship struggles all the time. It is just part of life. And you have to figure out how to move through it. So that's my premise, my foundation for the story I'm going to tell. So the story I'm going to tell is about someone who I have known for many, many years. And from day one, this person has always exhibited a certain type of behavior. And for the most part, everyone in her path does not really like her. It's just true. And it's one of those things that everyone just kind of deals with the situation. And this has been going on, gosh, I've known her for 15 years now. So a very, very long time. And I was one of those people that was like, okay, I'm just going to always let this go. And then once in a while we're friends. And then sometimes we're not friends. And I just kind of roll with the punches. Now, what ended up happening was this person had promised me they did something. And I had all along thought they did something. And ends up when I circled back, they didn't. And I have to say, it was sad to me because I was like, why didn't they do it? It's not a big deal. It it is to me a big deal, but it wasn't any hardship for them to do it, right? So to me, it was just laziness and them thinking about themselves only, which is actually why people don't like this person. So it kind of circled back to, this isn't a surprise, I guess, when I sit and think about it. So I had to sit and process it and go think through all the past behaviors and think to myself, why am I surprised? I shouldn't be surprised because this behavior is actually what has been going on for years and years and years. So I ended up calling another coach because I had an idea, and it ends up the idea is not possible. And in the conversation of the idea that was hopefully guiding towards a solution with this other person, the other coach was trying to coach me in regards to having a conversation with that person. And I feel that in the coaching world, that is what coaches are doing. They're not really listening or asking questions in regards to any background story to really get a clear perspective. They're just immediately going into coach mode. Well, you need to have a conversation with them and da 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 da. And I was like, well, no, I'm good. Like, I'm totally good. I don't think this person's going to change. It's not worth the drama. I really, now that I think about it, never really saw her as a friend. I guess I was trying to pretend we were friends and making up some story in my head, which really isn't true. And if I end up never speaking to her again, I'd be okay with it. So I'm not going to change her. I don't see the situation getting better. I'm just going to let it roll. So I'm going to use bucket number one, just like move on with it and let it go and don't let it suck any more energy, because often if you end up having a conversation with someone who isn't going to change, that just sucks up more energy if you think about it, right? Because you're going to have anxiety thinking about the phone call you got to make. And then you're going to have anxiety if it doesn't go well, which if the person's not going to change, it's likely not going to go well. Like, think about that, right? So at the end of the day, how big is the problem? Not really a big problem at all. Like, I just need to get over myself that she didn't do what she said she was going to do. And in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't make a difference anyways. So really, who cares? And move on. So I really, really was just very clear with myself and had, again, a great conversation with the other coach. I think the world of her, and I was just very glad that I had done the pre-work in thinking through the buckets, thinking through the other person, sitting with my feelings, sitting with the situation, and really kind of calmly like trying to assess it and go, you know what, at the end of the day, this just isn't worth it. So those are some strategies and some thought processes around how you can deal with some crappy people, because I'm just going to be honest. There are crappy people out there. There just are. And the more you're just aware of it and maybe lower your expectations and feel confident in moving away from some people or having less interaction with them, or if you need to take drastic measures, like I mentioned in the bucket tools, you have the confidence to do that, then that's great. And the more you get in the process, in the flow of moving through those steps, of having the thought process, of taking some time, the more confident you will feel in your relationships. And then at the end, just like I said in the beginning, you're going to have better energy, more positive energy, and gosh, so many things from there. So I hope you love this podcast. I hope you love my share. And I have, oh my gosh, I feel like I have so many stories along this line. So I would love to hear from you if this podcast helps you, or if you know someone else struggling with a relationship out there. Please forward this to them. Please share this. That is why I do this podcast, is to help someone. And if we all helped one person today, imagine what this world would be like. Thank you so much. Until next week, keep building your confidence. Thank you.